as he brings you all you need to know about your Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions with some of the biggest names in sports. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Or watch us live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
It's a live edition, folks. It is PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. It's a Monday. Hope everybody had a great weekend. 4th of July is Thursday. I'm sure a lot of people are on vacation this week. We will have JC today, and we'll have Graham Hall. He'll give us an update on Gator recruiting and everything else going on campus with Gator athletics. If you missed it last night, Wyatt Langford becomes the first Texas Ranger rookie since Oda B. McDowell hit for the cycle. And I'll be honest with you, I mean, it's awesome. But his speed and athleticism is the reason he hit for the cycle. Also, congratulations to all the Gators going to Paris. Leanne Wong will be a replacement athlete for the gymnastics team. And Parker Valby, good gracious, I watched her run the other night. That was phenomenal. So congratulations to them and our other track stars that are heading that way. Let's go to the Titan MR hotline, and we are joined by JC. What's happening, JC?
Valby's and the other track and field athletes, one of the big reasons why I would even watch some of these Summer Olympic Games. So that creates interest. But how about Wyatt Langford? I've got my Rangers hat on right now, and I'm thinking to myself, you said speed really accounted for a lot of the reason why he hit for the cycle, which he became the first major leaguer this year to do that. And you're right. He hit a ground ball past the second baseman, so basically stretched a single into a double for his double, and then he had an infield hit for his single. He hit a triple in the fourth inning, and then in the eighth inning, he jerked one around the foul pole for a home run, and the Rangers explode. They're 7-8 something games behind, underneath 500. So they need some offense. They need something to spark them. And he was certainly that guy. And he is just quite a story as, a rookie coming into the majors and starting or playing with the World Series champions. So it's really cool. It was a great night for the Rangers, but a great night for Wyatt Langford. They go home now to play San Diego in a home stretch. Maybe they can get on a little run. I don't think they're going to sell at the trade deadline. I think the Rangers are going to try everything they can to get back into this race for not just their division, but the wild card. They're around 8.5 games out in both scenarios. So I think the Rangers can be a team to keep your eye on as the defending World Series champions if they can get some offense going. Derek Hill had 2 home runs for him last night. So it was good to see. And Wyatt Langford, first player this year to hit for the cycle in the big leagues. So good for him.
Yeah. It's pretty cool for sure. And then obviously with all the Olympic athletes, there were a couple upsets in some of those races that I watched track the other night, which happens. But Grant Holloway and some other folks will be there. The Parker Valby thing just fascinated me, how fast they run those damn long distance runs. It's nuts. And 21, she turned it on to come in second. And I still don't understand. They talk about the Olympic, what is that word they use? Not Olympic pace or something. So I wasn't sure if she was going to make it or not. I assumed if she's in the top 3, she went. But so that is the case. I'm trying to get my computer working here, but it ain't working. So I'm not going to worry about it. All right, JC, our Peachland Dental golf picks there at the Rocket Mortgage in Detroit.
Yeah.
My guy came in second, I think, Aaron Rye.
Yeah.
Cam Young, the guy you picked, putts about like JC.
Awful. This is
He's
why
the
he
worst
hasn't
putter I've ever seen.
It's why he hasn't won on tour, QB. He's got all the goods. He's got the talent, hitting the ball and so forth. He broke his driver out of frustration on the back nine. He could not replace it because he broke it, and that just kind of set him off, and that affected his putting for sure. But he just cannot on the fourth day putt. He shot 73. The first 3 rounds he was in the mid 60s, and that's just called letting the moment get the best of you. And I think it's what happened to him. And it's too bad because he still hasn't won. But hey, let's hear it for Cam Davis. I mean, Cam Davis has now his second championship on tour, his second win, I should say. His first win came in 2021 at the same tournament. So he's won this tournament twice in 4 years. Cam Davis from Australia, 6'4" guy, can hit it a mile. And not many people know of him. But that's what you see in these tournaments is you see these guys ascend to the top. And, I also had Van Rooyen, who faced, he played well as well. He was in the top 10, I think. So for our picks, I think we did fairly well on this rather, random golf tournament here.
Yep. And so the people that are going to email and text,
they don't like
very, very good once again.
Yeah, if they like to have a chance in their top 10 bets on Hard Rock, they should listen to us. So we gave it 3 right there. But
yep,
John Deere Classic this weekend. Tough week for John Deere. I don't know if anybody knows, but they're laying off about 900 people. So factories are moving to Mexico, it would seem, and so that is off the course news about John Deere. But John Deere is a company in Illinois. This is the tournament they play. Many of the big names won't be playing in this tournament because they're on their way to Europe to get acclimated to the territory over there as they get ready for the Genesis Scottish Open, which is next week. And then we get into the Open Championship, the British Open at Troon this year. So that's where most of the names that you're going to see are headed. Patrick Cantlay will be in the field this weekend at the John Deere. So there are a few guys, but for the most part, everybody is heading east. And this is going to be a tournament.
So we got John Deere this week, which is in the Tri-Cities, I think in the Iowa area somewhere, and then
Illinois.
Yep. And then next week is Scottish Open, and the following week is British Open.
That's it. Yeah, Troon is 18th to 21st. Yep. So we got John Deere 4th through the 7th, 11th to the 14th is the Scottish, and then they have some tournaments back here for guys that didn't qualify for the British Open, which do count and they do matter. The Barracuda Championship and so forth, but the Open Championship at Troon on the 18th to 21st. And I'm trying to think, what is it about Troon? And I'll think more about this as we get into July here. It's only the 1st. But Troon does have that par 3, I think, that's something like 90 yards down a hill into open green where the behind it.
It's not the postage stamp, right?
Yeah, it's the postage stamp. That's what they call it.
That's the one they got at Golden Ocala that you can either hit. Yeah. You can either hit a sand wedge, 60-degree sand wedge. You can hit a 3-iron depending on the wind.
That's it. That's the one. Yeah. It goes.
All right, we got some.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Some YouTubes here from Justin, and brought to you by Quality Plumbing. It says Kaggs was great and he deserves the praise, but Langford was every bit as impressive as a Gator. No, I agree. I mean, for Wyatt Langford, who have been playing in the College World Series last year and now playing in the major leagues and hitting for the cycle, he shows you the talent the kid has.
That's right.
TheraPro Painters of Gainesville is area's leader in painting excellence and proud partner of the Florida Gators, offering professional painting services for homes and businesses, plus cabinet refinishing and carpentry repairs. Visit CertaPro.com for a free estimate. We got JC on the Titan Hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp. We'll have Graham Hall from 24/7 Sports. Andy's question on Facebook Live brought to you by Mellon Law. How does Miles Russell, the 15-year-old kid from Jacksonville, qualify for these golf tournaments? He gets sponsor exempts, and the kid played really well, man. He's going to be a stud. I don't know if he's a homeschool kid. So if he's 15, he's not even in high school yet. So I don't know. If he goes to high school, I would assume he's either going to be a Ponte Vedra Shark or a Bowles Bulldog.
Well, wait.
Would be my 2 guesses.
QB, if he's 15, he's in high school. I mean, 14-year-olds.
Ninth grader?
Yeah, I mean, 14-year-olds start high school. 12-year-olds are in 7th, 13, 8th, 14th. Yeah, he's definitely going to be in high school. But he's young. I mean, my God, 15 years old. Can't even drive a car without a grown-up.
No, the great thing about it is, I don't know if you saw it, JC, but every PGA Tour guy gets a courtesy car to drive around.
Yeah,
we all
sure.
know because Scotty Scheffler got pulled
Yeah.
over by the cops. He couldn't. He ain't old enough to drive.
Right.
His dad had to drive him in his courtesy car, and then they have a big sign on the men's locker room at the Detroit Country Club there. No one under 16. No one under 16 years old is allowed in the locker room. but they let him in there. I thought that was great.
That is good.
Okay, another thing I want to talk about, and I'm sure somebody's going to let us know here shortly where he goes to school. Dan says if Blakely and DeCello didn't get injured, there would be multiple Gators on the USA gymnastics team. Yeah, that gymnastics, dude. There were freaking athletes dropping like flies. It was sad. I mean, we had 2 of our girls get injured, and they're not going to be able to make the team. There were some bad injuries too, so it was sad to see. All right, I have a bone to pick here. Okay, I'm flipping through the channels, try to find something other than golf to watch yesterday.
Yeah.
And I do not understand I understand Texas is coming to the SEC, but why in the hell was the entire SEC network there? They gave no love to Oklahoma. None.
Yeah, second-class citizen. This is Texas being Texas. Here we go. I don't know the answer to that question, or who's producing that, but the Longhorns are going to have their own little streaming channel. I know that. They have already basically told Texas A&M what they're doing as far. Well, let me rephrase this. The Longhorns are coming to the SEC, and in my mind, they're probably thinking they're going to be able to pull some of the same stuff that they pulled in the Big 12. And Nebraska and some of these other teams that I've mentioned in the past, it really was a turnoff to some of the things that Texas was able to do with their money and so forth. And now you hear about the rumor of Texas A&M leaving to go to the Big Ten. And I don't know how real that is, but Trev Alberts is the new athletic director at Texas A&M. This is the reason, in my opinion, why Schlossnagle just bolted. And what I was referring to about Texas flexing was the idea of having the announcement of replacing their baseball coach on the final day of the College World Series when Texas A&M is playing for a championship. That's just a simple thing that Texas would do, right? It's a big rivalry. The Longhorns are becoming a college station. No way do I see the Aggies leaving, but they do have new leadership in their athletic department at Texas A&M. And so I guess Texas is so big and so powerful and so mighty, even though their football program before Sarkisian was less than average. I think their winning percentage, QB, think about this. Their winning percentage before Sark was 7th in the Big 12. 7th. They were in the lower half of the Big 12 before Steve Sarkisian. They were 7th in winning percentage. So that's what I think of Texas. I think of a school that has had a good year in football, a pretty good year prior to that, but before all of this was about as average and mediocre as it comes. So you talk about coaching hires and issues with hiring coaches that they've had at Tennessee, that they've had at Florida, that they've had at other schools. Let's take a look at what Texas has done before they finally got their guy in Sarkisian, whose career was basically brought up from the dead by Nick Saban. So that's what I think of Texas. They're going to have to do it a few more times before I think of them as being the great football program that they want us all to think they are. It's a long time since Vince Young in 2005, bro. It's a very long time.
Yeah.
Whatever year that was, I can't. So long ago. So
Wes says on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mel Law, that SEC Network will be in Norman today. Okay, I wasn't aware of that.
Well, there you go. TV.
Yeah. Tony also says, and Tony's into the golf. He's in the golf community. He knows all the big wigs over there in the Ponte Vedra area. He says, pretty sure Miles Russell is a homeschool kid, which I figured he was. He probably does a little bit of math homework and then goes hits balls at TPC all freaking day.
Just hope he doesn't get burned out, QB. 15 years old.
Yeah. George on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Pump, says, how can we let 2 of our better baseball players hit the portal?
Hit the portal?
George, I don't know who
Portal?
are two better baseball players on the Gator baseball team that left to go in the portal. I'm not aware of them. Please let me know who you're referring to, because I am pretty sure that nobody that we've lost in the portal really was going to play next year. And then North Florida Bear says on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing, not a good look for Laura Rutledge licking the boots of those Texas fans.
Oh, yeah. I
don't know what she was doing.
I don't know. It's a show.
God bless sundresses and cowboy boots on Saturday game day.
And chaps.
In the SEC.
And chaps. Don't forget.
Well, Texas wears chaps. I'm talking about in the Southeastern Conference. That's what they wear on Saturdays, cowboy boots and sundresses all throughout the conference.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
Anyway, let me get to some of these texts on the Tight No More text line. This is one. Hang on. Okay, I'm getting all kinds of updates on Miles Russell. He practices at the Atlantic Beach Country Club, which was remodeled a few years ago. Pretty good little golf course. You ever played there, JC?
I have not. No.
Yeah. All right. This is a text from Kevin. It says, didn't A&M take our coaches and players that didn't tackle? I feel good about beating them. Yeah, he's referring to their defensive coordinator, and several Gators transferred there last year. Daryl says, ain't no love in Oklahoma. I think that's the new I want to say Luke Combs. Is that his new song? Ain't no love in Oklahoma? It's something along those lines. Maybe that was referring to the SEC.
Okay.
All right. So here's a text right here from Jerry in Macon, Georgia, on the Tight No More text line. He says, are y'all surprised at all with the success of Wyatt Langford?
No.
I will go first. I will say no, but here's the thing. We all, in our years of watching whatever sport it is, and especially baseball, you see so many great players at the collegiate level, or, this kid who's a first round pick out of whatever high school never makes it, right? It happens all the time because it's so hard to make it in baseball. I think it's truly amazing how fast he was in the majors.
Yeah. Well, between him and Paul Skeens, you had two guys playing in the final game that are impacting their teams at the highest level right now. I think Paul is 4-0, something like that, with Pittsburgh, an average team at best, and getting it done without a whole lot of run support in that lineup from 1 to 9. And then you got Langford, who's with a struggling team offensively that can't seem to score runs, and really making an impact last night. Now, I don't know what his average is going into that game last night or how he's played, honest to God. I just haven't heard much. But he certainly made news last night, and that was on national television, Sunday Night Baseball. Everybody who watched got to see him. And I've been watching a lot of baseball for some reason. I guess it's because of the weather or something. I don't know what it is. It's summertime. I'm tuning in more for some reason this year than I have been. Maybe it's because the Yankees are competing. But I think that Langford and Skeens are, the two guys that come to my mind, having participated just a year ago in the championship game of college baseball. And here they are at the highest level, just like that. So hopefully Jack Caglione will be somebody to that effect. I don't know who will draft him. I don't know if he's going to be a top 5. I'm sure he'll be a top 10 pick, Jack Caglione. If that's the case, he could end up with a team like the White Sox or a team like the Angels or somebody like that that's looking for some pop in their lineup. And that would be, what we come to expect. A team that's struggling would probably be more inclined to bring up a player like that quicker because they need help. And that's kind of what I see with Texas. Their team they are not hitting like the team that won the World Series last year. They just are not. Seager has been quiet this year. This Derek Hill, who hit 2 home runs for the Rangers last night. And I'm not a big Rangers follower. I have family in Arlington that I'm going to go watch them play the Orioles here in 2 weeks. But they're a team that's just been quiet this year. And as defending World Series champions, you would expect more. So maybe Langford is going to be that guy that gives them that spark. And it would be great to watch as a former Florida player who we got to see, a former kid from the local area here, Trenton, Florida, which is 30 miles west of us here. or not even maybe that far. So it's fun to watch a local kid do so well, in as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, for sure. Justin on YouTube is referring to George Baker's comments about the baseball two best players,
Okay.
two of our better players hitting the portal. He says that he must be talking about Cade Fisher, who was a pitcher.
And Michael
He was
Robertson
in the rotation, but he struggled. And Michael Robertson was a good defense. But they've upgraded. So that's the thing about what I don't think. I mean, like I said, usually in baseball, and this is probably the first comment that I've heard that someone was upset, or however you want to phrase it, about players leaving in a baseball transfer portal. I've never heard anybody. You know, you can have a guy who hasn't played a down in football, but just because he was highly recruited, he goes in the portal. It's the coaches don't know what the hell they're doing. So yeah, like Robert says, we signed a better center fielder than Robertson from the portal. Yeah,
there you go.
They've added some really good baseball players, by the way.
Oh, they'll be back. They're going to be back. They're always going to be a factor, man. It was a weird year this year, coming off a great year the year before. It'll be back. I'm not worried about baseball QB. I think the leadership at baseball.
Well, I'm not. I'm just. That's. But I'm saying is the fans don't worry about the transfer portal in baseball like they do in football.
Well, you know,
Greg
you gotta,
says on.
Okay.
What?
No, I was just saying, if you're going to worry about the transfer portal, start thinking about the incomings too. I mean, it seems like the attention always goes toward the outgoings. Think about the guys coming in, because those are your new players, and that's where I think if more attention were spent on the guys coming in as opposed to the guys going out, you might find yourself in a better mood if you do a little bit of work. I mean, because these kids coming in, listen, these coaches know who they are in every sport. They're offering the opportunity for kids to come here. So they know who these guys are. Think about that. If you change the way you think about the portal and you start thinking about the incomings as opposed to the outgoings, you might find yourself in a better frame of mind. That's my advice today. Psych 101.
And especially when the guys that are leaving haven't done anything.
That's
So,
Gervon Dexter left. Gervon Dexter left, and it was like, oh, thank God. I mean, did we have to push him out, or did he just leave on his own? It was one or the other. But please, somebody.
He went to the draft at JC. He got drafted.
He's still. Did he play all 4 years?
No.
Okay, that's the same thing.
Let's see here. I was going to read this, and Greg says on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mel, I'm no CEO, but maybe John Deere should quit paying millions of dollars to sponsor golf tournaments.
Well, that's a write-off. Just think of that. It does help on the tax form. They laid off a lot of people. It's not a good look. It's sad, actually. The timing couldn't be worse. But I'm sure a lot of folks are not going to focus on that, except the ones who are without a job. So, building factories in Mexico also is not something that I think people get very happy with. We got a lot of land in this country. But having said that, that's what we got this weekend. I don't know why I brought that up. I guess because I was reading it in the business news, which is what I do. But anyhow, the real golf starts in 2 weeks.
They make a good lawnmower, though. I like
they
the lawnmowers.
They do.
Text on the Titan No More text line from William in Valrico, Florida, says, way to go, Parker Valby. Yep. And then Josh in Mississippi says, did you know that today is Happy Bobby Bonilla Day?
Okay, he gets another million.
He's still collecting money.
He gets another million. I think he gets $1 million a year for the rest of his life.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's absolutely nuts.
The greatest contract in the history of contracts, dude. This guy does nothing to advance the Mets, and they pay him. It's I don't know how he negotiated that deal. It's really, really amazing how idiotic so many people are at negotiating financial deals. It blows my
mind. Daniel says he played Hyde Park yesterday. Didn't see him there. I guess he's referring to Miles Russell. Has a friend who's a member at Atlantic Beach and sees him regularly out there. Okay. Yeah. Brian wants to know, JC, this is on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mel Law. Will you watch the U.S. men play soccer tonight?
I will, and if they lose, it would not surprise me whatsoever. They've been a disappointment, blowing it to Panama. They need to beat Panama's about the size of Tennessee. They need to beat Uruguay, which is about the size of Ohio, maybe a little bigger. And if they can't do that, then all this hype going into the Copa America will have been for nothing. They need to win the game and score the goals. Yesterday, England was bailed out literally with a minute left in extra time on a bicycle kick by some guy named Billingham. It then forced extra time against Slovakia, and they won it 2-1. The uproar that you would have seen in England would have certainly overshadowed the uproar you will see here. But if the U.S. doesn't win, here's C. Irby, QB. This is on Facebook Live. On YouTube. Says, my point, JC's point about Texas being average until Sark arrived underscores what Shane has been saying for a while, which is that elite head coaches are certainly very rare and not a dime a dozen. So there you have it.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more.
Good one there from C. Irby. I mean, think about it. Think about it, folks. Texas was trash. I watched them play. They were nobody. And 7th in the winning percentage in the Big 12 is laughable for a school like that. And here they are now, a national power, Final Four team last year, and a team that's favored, one of the teams that are favored, get back to the Final Four and win the SEC this year. So
we're back. Concrete builds firm foundations for generations. You stand on it. We stand by it. A few more minutes with JC here on the Titan More Hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp. Joseph says on Facebook Live, American sports is on the downfall. First we lose to Japan in American football. Now we just lost to Panama in real football as well. But again, Joseph, I don't know who those guys are playing. Somebody on Twitter said that these are kids that actually paid to be on the team.
Yeah.
Could you imagine
if the Baltimore Ravens
showed up like an American football team?
Right. Let's say the Baltimore Ravens showed up in Osaka. Who's going to beat them there? I mean, who's going to beat the Saints in Japan? Who's going to beat the Chiefs? All right, come on. I mean, I don't know why people pay attention to sports like this. Honestly, I didn't even know this was going on. I had no idea. This is exhibition stuff. This does not move the needle. It makes me laugh that people pay attention to it. It's crazy. It's just exhibitionism. It doesn't mean anything. It's not real. It has nothing to do with nothing. I could go send the Kentucky Wildcats to Japan and they blow out everybody. So I just don't understand it. I don't understand why people care about stuff like this.
Andy wants to know, it has nothing to do with quarterbacking, but did you see Anthony Richardson's dunk that he posted? Looked like Dominic Wilkes. Yeah, he can dunk the basketball. I didn't see it, but he can definitely dunk it.
He's
multiple
great
ways.
Yeah, 6'5".
Yeah, he's very athletic for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Justin wants to know, do we know what day Jimbo Fisher Day is?
Every day for the next 6 years is Jimbo Fisher Day. He gets $7.5 million, and he loads up his 20 gauge, and he goes and shoots animals on his property in Texas. That's what he does. And he gets, thanks to Ross Bjork, who somehow got a job at Ohio State. Don't ask me how. This guy was more loose with money than anybody I've known as an AD. But $7.5 million going into that bank account for Jimbo in the next 365 days for the next 6 years. It's a staggering contract. But A&M has so much that it just didn't matter to him. But I still don't think that should relieve Ross Bjork of the foolish and ridiculous extension he signed Jimbo Fisher to when Jimbo was winning 10 games. It's the same thing that Oklahoma just did with Brent Venables. The guy wins 10 games, 10, loses his second straight bowl game, but wins 10 games and gets an extension. It just befuddles the mind. That doesn't, to me, none of that makes any sense. These are guys that have not won anything, and yet they're getting extended. I guess it's the new world order in college sports, but all it does is drive up the budget. I mean, it's crazy. To me, it's just crazy. Just crazy.
It is crazy, but that's the world we live in.
Yeah, no question. It is the world we live in. Now, the hottest seat burning right now is the one here, but he can change that really quickly in the first 5 games of this year. And, if you're optimistic, if you're a glass half full guy, you say that's going to happen. But a lot of folks in the media believe the seat is hottest here. But again, you have an opportunity to take advantage of the opportunity given to you with these very competitive, good games to start the season. Miami, Texas A&M, Tennessee, and do something to cool that seat down. And if he does that in the first 5 games, I think we're going to be okay here, even though the back half of the schedule is what it is.
Yeah, well, we don't know if it's going to be difficult. There's only 2 teams on there that really concern me, and that's Texas and Georgia. I think the other teams, things can go south on them just as quickly as they can have a great year. Before we get out of here, someone a couple of days ago last week asked, had I been over to campus to watch practice? Well, they don't practice yet.
No.
The coaches, the real coaches that actually coach a position, have about 2 to 3 weeks off before they start camp. So they're all on vacations, doing whatever they do with their families and friends. That's why, like the summertime, it's all about strength coaches and conditioning coaches. So that's all they're doing is running and lifting and all that kind of stuff. So there you have it, JC. We're gonna go. We're gonna go to Graham Hall.
All right, sounds good. Enjoy it.
You have a great day.
We'll see you Wednesday. Have a good one.
That's JC. Join us on the Titan Number Hotline, courtesy of Comfort Tech. Take a quick timeout. Come back. We'll be joined by Graham Hall for 24/7 Sports. You're watching and listening to PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back.
We want to take this moment to thank our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security, Titan MRI, Meldon Law, Peachland Dental, QC Kinetics, Campus USA Credit Union, Dave & Buster's. Our Gridiron sponsors, CertaPro Painters, Comfort Temp, UF Bookstores, Campus USA Credit Union, Quality Plumbing, Silverback Concrete, Ruse Ogre State Farm, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, F45. Our touchdown sponsors, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteaks, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods. If you're interested in promoting your business on the show, call Freddie at 352-284-3733. If you like what we're doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Hi there, this is Coach Steve Spurrier, and I want to let you know that by popular demand, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill's delicious brunch is now served in a premium buffet. You have spoken, we have listened, and we're now serving Gainesville's only elevated buffet, complete with an omelet station, ginger sage chicken sausage, shredded short rib, and of course our chicken and waffles. Plus, you can enjoy bottomless mimosas and Bloody Marys. So join us every Saturday and Sunday from 11 to 3 for the best brunch in town.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Ruse Ogre State Farm Office is a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go right with the right insurance options for you and your family. Visitogreinsurance.com. Give them a call at 352-240-1779. We're going to go back to the Titan Number Hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp. We're joined by 24/7 reporter. I guess he's a reporter, beat writer. He just does it all. Graham Hall. How you doing, my man?
Doing well. Thanks for having me. It's good to be here always and talk a lot about Florida. Always something going on.
All right, let's somebody text the program, I think it was last week, and they sent me a screenshot, and I deleted it, but it had something to do, it was like the entire SEC, okay, where they rank. I don't know if this is 2025 or 2026 recruiting, and we were dead last, like behind Vanderbilt. And I started laughing because they were raising hell. I'm like, I do not care where we're ranked right now. Do you know what I'm talking about? What year that could possibly be? Is it 2026?
Yeah, no, it's the current class. I definitely
think the current class. Okay.
Yeah, I think that you can be concerned at that if you want. I'm not going to stop anyone or say that, it's not worth being concerned about, because I do think that when you look back at past years, how well Florida has done the recruiting trail under Billy Napier, some of the classes that we've seen, the hype that you've seen coming out of Friday Night Lights, go back to, even Jim McElwain, his time, Will Muschamp, all those guys, what their classes looked like in June and July. I mean, you were trending towards a top 10 class. So being ranked last in the SEC with just 10 guys or whatever it is for Florida, that certainly is something that is a little bit concerning. I believe it's less than 10 guys, but I think I said on here a couple of weeks ago that this is maybe not a situation that a lot of people want Florida to be in, but given the current circumstances of the program, right, where they have this grueling schedule, there is some uncertainty just from a national perception level when it comes to Billy Napier's future at Florida, that there's going to be some players who they're contending with, some top targets who have Georgia, Alabama, Miami, Florida State, Ohio State, you name it, who are after them, where they're going to maybe want to see from Florida. They like what Florida has to offer. They're making competitive offers, but they're going to want to see how they look on the football field. And that's going to lead to, I think, a little bit more hesitance for Florida. And if you want to look at that as a negative right now, like I said, I'm not going to stop you. I totally think that's fair in a way. Now, I do think that Florida is going to land some commitments here in the next couple of weeks. I do think that you're going to see that this class is going to get a little bit bigger before the 2024 season arrives. But right now, I understand why there'd be a little bit some apprehension, some concern right now when it comes to the current class. But it's kind of a product of the circumstances where Florida is due to the current regime's perception, like I said, in the upcoming schedule.
Yep. Staying with recruiting right now, the kid, the DB, I think he's a safety out of the Mandarin in Jacksonville, committed several months ago to USC. And I remember saying on my program, people were raising hell. I'm like, look, it's a long time till that kid actually has to sign. And I just have a hard time believing a guy from Jacksonville is going to go to all the way across the country to California. Well, he's decommitted from USC now. What does it look like for the Gators?
Yeah, I mean, when Hilton Stubbs committed to USC, that was, I think, a little bit of surprise to people at Florida and, Miami, teams that were recruiting him aggressively, where they didn't really expect him to make a decision, a cross-country decision in May, right? And you saw, I think, a little bit of an exodus of commits backing off their commitment to the Trojans, and Hilton was one of them. He took official visits to Florida, to Miami, and now he's going to make a decision on July 4th. So I hate to tell any Florida fan to be on your phone and paying attention to recruiting rather than being out by the barbecue and hanging out at the pool. But if you care about this kid's decision, you may have to check back for some updates, because he's going to make it on July 4th. This is one where I've heard some really interesting things in both directions. Miami is confident, Florida's confident, both of them should feel confident. And this is one that I could even see going, either way. I think that, like you just said, though, and not to diminish his decision whatsoever, but I do think that just committing during the summer, where recruiting is right now for both programs, I would be shocked that regardless of who he picks, that he's not going to be back in Gainesville on August 31st for an unofficial visit to see that game between Miami and Florida, see how those two teams look for themselves, get a better feel of how competitive those teams are, how the coaches work in game. This is a situation where I don't think that it's going to be completely shut down. Just my opinion here, of course, that even when he makes his decision on July 4th, which kind of reiterates the message that you just said at the beginning of this question, is let's just not freak out just yet. This is going to be something that, is probably going to go down to early signing day, where he's going to still face interest from other programs around the country. Georgia could be someone who, tries to come into the mix. Who knows, really, that Florida is going to have to take care of business on the field. And if they do that, they're going to have their chances with players like Hilton, with numerous targets that are on their board that maybe are, like I said, being a little bit just wait and see right now for Florida. But his decision is going to come on Thursday. So I encourage Florida fans to pay attention to that because it is a Florida and Miami battle right now. Those two teams are neck and neck. And like I said, both programs feel very, very positive about where they're trending for him. He really enjoyed that Miami official visit. Florida has the proximity. Jacksonville kids, a ton of them are on this roster. He really, really likes the Florida program, loved his official visit. So this is one that I'm really intrigued to see what happens on July 4th.
Yeah, got to win games, like you said. Annie's question on Facebook Live brought to you by Metal Law. How important is the signing? I don't know if he's signed. He's committed, I believe. Pembroke Pines, wide receiver Joshua Moore, and who would you compare him to?
Oh, I think he's a fantastic prospect. I think that, his size, maybe I'd even compare him to Elijah Badger if I had to pick someone on Florida's roster, 6'4", it just has great wingspan. He probably projects as that X wide receiver in Florida's system. This is, look at the offer sheet. I know sometimes people see, 3-star wherever they're ranked, not to diminish the rankings whatsoever, but I do think that you look at the teams that were after him, that were in the mix for him. I mean, Florida State wants him really, really badly, and that's a team that, I hate to remind Florida fans, is coming off a 13-0 regular season finish. I mean, this is a team that, they should, in theory, be able to go out there and take prospects away from Florida if it comes down to those two teams. But Joshua Moore really, really likes what Billy Gonzalez said. He's got a good relationship with Chad Lucas. He has spent a good amount of time at the Florida program. He feels comfortable there. It's not too far away from home for him. I really, really like his game. You go watch his film. This is not someone who looks like a 3 or 4-star prospect to me. This guy has verifiable film. His highlights are fantastic. He's really competitive from everything I've heard. This is a big addition for me in my eyes. I do think, kind of not to be a downer here, though, they're going to have to hold on to him and make sure that, like you just said, they take care of business on the field, because this is someone that other programs are going to try and flip throughout the cycle. Miami is not going to give up on him either. Florida State, you're going to have to contend with the rest of the in-state programs for this guy, because I think he's really, really talented.
I wanted to ask you, I think it was last week, the Gator, it was a quarterback out of the state of Georgia, I believe. It was between us and University of Memphis. I can understand why. I mean, we have DJ, and then you have the kid from Tampa Jesuit committed as well. But I was just surprised this kid, when you look at whether it's Florida or, another Power 5 school, he chose Memphis. You know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, Antoine Hill. I mean, that is you pretty much nailed it there. I mean, Florida is going to have a tough time selling an opportunity for top quarterbacks in this cycle to come in and compete as a freshman. I mean, I think that people understand that this is DJ Lagway's show next year. Obviously, he's going to have to compete for the starting job and continue to improve, but the odds of, beating him out for the job as a true freshman is something that is going to be very difficult for Florida to sell to players. It's much easier to go out there and get a 2026 quarterback like landing Will Griffin out of Tampa. That makes a lot more sense to me, because then you actually have a guy who is understanding that he's going to come in. DJ could be going into his junior year. He benefits from sitting for another year. And then maybe he's the guy going into the 2027 season. That makes a lot more sense to me from a pitch standpoint. They more than likely will have to get one of these quarterbacks that's outside the top 15 to be able to come in and join the program. And I do think that they're going to end up doing that, because you never know what can happen in a place like Florida. Injuries, knock on wood, can strike at a moment's notice, and you do need someone who's capable behind the guy. But pitching early playing time to these guys is very, very difficult with DJ Lagway on the roster. And obviously, if anything happens, the transfer portal, he doesn't have to be at Memphis forever. He doesn't have to be at any program forever. If an opportunity arises to come in and compete for the job right away at the next year, you have a chance to lean on some previous relationships with a guy like Antoine. So it is going to be, like I said, tough to land a top-rated 2025 quarterback in this class. I mean, you look at Georgia, I think that's a good comparison. Just the amount of top quarterbacks that they landed in back-to-back-to-back years. It looked really good at the time, but how many of them are actually still on the roster? How many of them chose to go elsewhere? I mean, Brock Vandegrift is at, Kentucky now, and he was the number one quarterback, 5-star guy in his class. I mean, it's really, I think, tough to do that. And Florida, like I said, with Hilton, has kind of what's going to happen after this season to the organization here. So if you were invested in Antoine Hill committing to Florida, Florida did everything they could from a recruiting him standpoint, but Memphis has an opportunity for him to come in and potentially compete from day one.
Yeah, you bring up a good point that I forget to think about is, a kid like him can go to Memphis, put up some good numbers, put some good tape out there, and then big major Power 5 school is going to throw a bunch of money at him to go. So you'll probably see the kids doing that more often. All right, Graham, we got a text here on the Titan Mark text line from Jimmy. He says, Graham, it looks like baseball and softball have added some really good players in the portal so far this year. Is that due to Florida Victorious?
I can't say for sure whether it's due to Florida Victorious. To my understanding, NIL is not a huge play when it comes to baseball and softball. I think that it's a little bit more simple than that. I appreciate the question, of course, but I mean, you look at the coaching staff, look at the success of the programs there. I mean, Kevin O'Sullivan has, I think, made it well known that he's going to use the transfer portal a little bit more this year than he has in seasons past. And that is, I think, already, proving to be true. They've landed 6 guys in the portal. They've landed a pair of arms, Matthew Ross, the SoCon pitcher of the year. They just landed Billy Barlow at Clemson, who appeared against the Gators in the super regional there. You lose Cade Fisher as well. There wasn't really, from what I understand, a guarantee that they could give him that he would be a starter next season after this year didn't really go the way that many people anticipated. That makes a ton of sense to me. NIL could be increasing in baseball, but it's not going to ever be what it is with football and basketball. So it really, I think, is just a testament to the opportunity at Florida, a team that went unranked at the end of the season, was a game above 500, and then got all the way to the semifinal round, the final 4 teams there. So you have a chance to come in and play for a coach with future MLB players on your roster. That is something that is going to appeal to everyone out there. And the same thing to, Tim Walton's team. I do think that, look how young that softball team was this year. I think the youngest team to make it as far as they did in the Women's College World Series. And, you do it with Rothrock, who you can add another arm behind her, and they've done that. You got to replace Skylar Wallace, of course. I mean, the opportunity to come in and compete for a championship, not to remind Florida fans, I mean, they had their opportunities to stop Oklahoma from being that 4-time defending champion, and that's how close they were. So you have a chance to go out there and get some of the top players in the country, and they've already made some really impressive additions in my mind. I can't go through the full list right now, but they continue to add talent to the roster here, and I do just think that both of those teams right now, it's a testament to you have a chance to compete on the national level. And not to disagree with you too much, Jimmy, at all, but I do think that this is a little bit of a refreshing thing for me sometimes, because it really is what so many people fell in love with college athletics for, not as much NIL, more so a chance to work your way up. Yeah, transfer portal is here to stay, but you have a chance to get players who are coming in to compete for a championship. And often for a lot of the players on this roster, this is going to be the peak of their athletic careers. For softball, this may be your chance to have your best moment in your sport. I know that we got, professional softball league now, but I do think that for a lot of the players that you're recruiting, this is a chance to really, make your stamp and capitalize on everything you've worked for. And same with baseball. There's a lot of guys that you have a chance who've worked their way up from, mid-major teams, who have a chance to come in and capitalize on one season, one opportunity. And it's less so about NIL and more so a chance to further realize their dreams and chase a championship.
All right, one last softball question here. Dan asked on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mental Law. Any update on Najari Kennedy from Stanford coming to UF, their star pitcher? I would assume she's going to end up at Oklahoma, but I've not heard her coming here. Have you heard anything?
I have not. I can't say it's out of the question, but it's not someone who has been really on my radar. I'm not going to rule it out because you never really know, but it does seem that if she has a choice between Oklahoma or Florida right now, you're kind of the second place team right now in that race. I just haven't heard that name thrown around, and I think it would behoove Florida to maybe move on to some other options, just knowing that talent is going to continue to be picked out of the portal at a high rate.
All right, last text here for you from George. He says, Graham, about how many current athletes, football players, are still sitting in the portal right now?
Oh man, it's four figures. It's got to be, it's got to be over 1,000, which is, I guess you got to hit me with a depressing question here, because so often we get to cover the ones who go land elsewhere, get an opportunity to go to Florida, go to a Power 5 school, work their way up from being unappreciated. But there are so many cautionary tales in the transfer portal where guys don't get an opportunity, or they have to wait elsewhere, or they take a relegation where they have to go to another school that is not as good of an academic offering for them. And they really have kind of gambled a chance at ever, becoming a lifer at that program and getting a really, really good degree from a top, 5, top 10 public university. There are so many players out there who have to end up going D2, D3, JUCO, try and work their way back up rather than work their way at a place with impressive facilities and a better education offered. I try not to think about that when I think about the transfer portal, because overall I think it's a good thing, the freedom to make that choice, but to be under the impression that every 18 to 22-year-old is making the correct choice, that's unfortunately just not how it is. There are so many that we don't hear about that try and take that risk and go elsewhere, and it doesn't work out for them. There are players every single year that regret going to the transfer portal. It happens time and time again. And it's one of those things that people who are a little bit skeptical about the benefits of the transfer portal, it's something that they point to where they say that there maybe needs to be a few more advisory aspects behind the scenes, a few more hurdles to prevent players from maybe making an emotional decision in the moment where they then have to, risk, I think, their future in a sense here. I don't know what the solution is. There are avenues like that to protect people in all aspects of sports. I look at one in the NBA that I think is really interesting. If you change representation, you're really risking something. You can't just go to any agent, willy-nilly here. You have a 15-day window before you can sign with a new agent. So there is at least some inherent risk that you have to factor in before you make a decision like that. And there really isn't too much of that risk in the transfer portal right now, not as much as there should be when you look at how many players end up making a bad decision for themselves in retrospect. Not to be a downer here, but there are definitely a lot of players that are left in the transfer portal that are looking back and saying, maybe I should have stuck it out a little bit more. And it's not always their fault. There are players who are told behind the scenes to enter the transfer portal. I don't want to put it all on the players here, to be completely clear. There are players who get recruited to a program, don't live up to the expectations, and then the coach says, hey, maybe you should go into the portal and get a better chance elsewhere if you want to compete. Really don't give them much of a choice. And then, they sometimes get left in the portal. That is definitely one of the sad things about the transfer portal. It's not a lifetime guarantee. It's a year-to-year thing. And both sides, coaches and players, have it as a way to, lower the educational level that a lot of these guys can get. Sorry for that rant there, but it's the reality.
No. Yeah, I agree. Great stuff as always, my man. What y'all got going on at 24/7 Sports that our listeners may be interested in?
We'll be covering recruiting. These next couple of weeks, we're trying to really recharge for the season. We'll be in Dallas in 17 days to talk to Billy Napier and a couple of players for SEC Media Days, and then we're full on into the season mode. But some recruiting content coming as well, some postseason look backs. We'll be talking to the new basketball additions here in the next week and a half. So look for all that stuff. It's always a busy time, but maybe these are the next 10 days or 2 weeks that are a little bit less busy than usual as we all recharge mentally and physically for this upcoming season. I know I'm excited for it already, but got to get some sleep, right?
Yep. Get some rest, my friend. Appreciate your time, Graham.
Likewise, y'all take care out there. Always looking forward to being back.
Yeah. That's Graham Hall, one of the best in the business. Join us on the Titan More Hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp. This day in sports brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. Put some star power to work in your financial life with Campus USA Credit Union. In 1859, the first intercollegiate baseball game, Amherst beats Williams 66-32 in Pittsfield, Massachusetts. Not much pitching in that game. Hope you enjoyed today's program. Again, thanks to Graham and JC for joining us on the Titan More Hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp. Have a great day, folks. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care.